Welcome back to GBRANZ. We are back for another season. It's the regulars on the couch, World Cup winning Wallaby, Jeremy Paul. It always sounds good, doesn't it, mate?
I don't know why you bother, like, honestly, because it is a mountain. You're going to fuck it up one of these days, and that's going to be the best soon.
One of these days I will. But
Yeah.
good to have you on the couch as well, Marshy.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
And we're graced with his excellency.
Wow.
Yes, we're not worthy. Here he is, the king of Christchurch.
What was the McDonald's thing? What happened? Talk us through it.
Yeah, I tried to sweep that one under the rug, but it kept coming back on my socials, so I had to own it, Just pulled up, so couple, we've come home, my parents are over as well, just come after the game, didn't get any food in the after-match function, all the Reggies ate it all. But I just pulled up next to it, like there's two lanes going into the Maccas, and what the bloke next to me just sort of saw who I was, and we just had a little yarn for about 30 seconds before he got his food. We made our order, and big order, went up to pay, and then they just said, oh look, the bloke sorted you out. Yeah, and it would have been a hefty, decent whack at it. So I just went up and said good and thanks for it and whatnot, but didn't realise it was being filmed. But I told the dietitian I just had a hot chocky, so.
It's a nice way to be introduced to the Cantabrian or the Crusaders fans, the Cantabrians, the Christchurch people. It's very generous of them. But how has your overall sort of impression of moving to the Crusaders been so far? Like how have you sort of integrated?
Oh, it's been so seamless. Like from the moment we landed at the airport, we had like a crew to pick us up and pick my dog up. The house is ready. There was like a gift basket, treats for my dog. Like everything like came in first day, and like everyone's been so well.
What do you mean the house was ready?
Literally turnkey, walked in, red carpet.
Beers in the fridge.
Quinn brought over a bottle of Pinot Noir. Oh, look at that. So yeah, no, it's been so easy, and like I guess the footy side, but the boys are so welcoming as well. Yeah, it's been cool.
Didn't you say to me like even all the wives reached out to your partner to try and make her feel at home and take her out and stuff?
Yeah, so even like before we landed, like I was getting messages from the boys and like little places to do, and even my missus, a few of the wives and girlfriends reached out to my missus and told her like places to go, and we're probably ticked off more than they have right now. We've been doing a lot of wholesome activity for our lads.
When we look at how the Crusaders have sort of the environment sort of welcomed you in, like what have you found has been like as far as like training with the Crusaders and like the way they go about their business?
I think probably the biggest thing, like the first thing that comes to mind is Aussies, we complain a fair bit. Like,
do you? Just a little.
No.
But the funny thing is that that's what Rob wanted from me, to like add a bit more, like, not a bit more gear, but a little bit. Like, so the first day we do a Bronco, and then he makes up. I knew he was making it up because I was on the side watching, and he said, a couple of people didn't hit the line. So then he goes, okay, we're going to do another half Bronco. And all the boys just put their head, all right, let's get to it. And I'm like, and I was would have been like, who the fuck was it? Like, who didn't do it? And like, but they just got on with it, and I was blown away. Like, what? That guy, they just put their head down and get to work. Yeah. But probably the other big thing is just the speed of ruck ball here. Like at training, my first probably 2 weeks, geez, I was blowing. Like I was like, this is quick. Like for me, normally I understand the game. I'm like, okay, in this sort of shape, I need to get hair or have to take off at this time. I was about a metre or two behind the play consistently, so I had to really tweak how I was doing it. And then we get to game time, and it's back to 3-second ruck, so I'm all good.
What about like, because obviously most teams will have a leadership group with respects to game plans, and were you invited to any of that sort of stuff, or was that a lot different to what you sort of saw or your time in Australia?
I think there is quite a lot of play input. Like, I mean, from the moment I signed, I had great conversations with Jimmy Marshall straight away, and he sent me like what he was thinking for the attack plan for the shape, and he came over and I think we ended up yarning for about 3 or 4 hours about some starters, what he had planned, like how I'd like to tweak them, like the phase shape, what it would look like, where we think our key points will be, little things like that. But in terms of like, it's not that there's more, I guess, more input. Like, again, every team's reviewing, like even the last couple of weeks we'll do a review. I'll watch the game straight after the game, and then a couple of us sort of ball players will get together. We've got a little notes conversation where we're throwing ideas back and forth. So by the time it gets to Sunday, which is day one, usually Monday, like we've already got a clear idea of what we want to tweak and improve from the game. And then the coaches will just come with a couple tweaks of this starter play and a couple other things. So in terms of the leadership group, I'm not in that sort of off the field stuff. I'm just sort of focusing on the game. Well, I wasn't invited into it, but they haven't opened the full curtain. But yeah, look, I feel like I'm being included in a lot of the, I guess, the calling and stuff on the field is sort of what you want from your game drivers anyhow.
Can I go back one step just quickly, because Andy never went there, which is typical of him and done his research. But don't worry, you'll get used. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. Why? Why did you come here?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah,
I
good
had that on my list.
No, you did not. Let me see that phone. Oh, I can't read that anyway.
Great question. Yeah, it sort of just it didn't fall on my lap. I was sort of searching for a place where I could have gone overseas. I had a couple of deals to go back to France or to the US, and I was very close to doing them, even with the Reds as well. I had a +1 option with the Reds, which I decided not to take. And then this sort of just came in like the 11th hour. And then as soon as it sort of happened, it happened within probably a week. As soon as I spoke to Rob, we connected really, really quickly. I was literally probably a week later over in New Zealand with my brothers in an RV doing a road trip. And then when I get the call from my manager, look, yeah, go down and meet him. I'm an hour away, so I jumped in the RV, pulled up, and went to Rugby Park, and we had communications, and it just felt right. So we got the deal done, and yeah, I think probably a week. Part of that why is the Wallaby stuff. It's not the only why. Like, I think, like, I felt like even all the conversations, even when I had like my last conversation with Les was the last game I played was against Wales. I think Waltonga as well with the Reds, and I felt like I was really doing things I hadn't done in the last 4 years. I was energized, and I really was enthused by rugby again. So then when this happened, everything was finding me. You get little signs everywhere. I was like, you got another swing left in you. So like, why finish like with, fuel in the tank? So I'd rather not die wondering. So when the Crusaders came, the main call was, it's the Crusaders. I paused, like I would love to play for the Crusaders. It'd be unreal to just, one, see how they do things. Two, I love, I'm not a big trainer, but I love just, I feel like, yeah, there you go. But I love competing at training and just seeing testing yourself against some of the other, we've got some of the best backs in the world in our team. So I really want to understand their mindset of how they go into games, how they see rugby, and then compete against them and be like, have I got them? Like, where's this? Like, how does it differ? So that was probably the biggest driver. And then obviously that does play into the fact that I do want to play for the Wallabies in that Lions series. But I am very aware of the other guys have got a nod first, but I'm just sort of putting that question out there. If I'm playing well enough and if I'm doing a job, why can't I be in the question still?
Can I ask then, and you don't have to answer this actually, because if it's outside of the boundaries, then it's outside and we get it. But have you had any conversations with Joe Schmidt? And equally, is it at all by any means detrimental for you to be playing outside of Australia for Wallaby selection?
Yeah, well, the last conversation I had with them was sort of middle of last year. I think, but I don't want to put other coaches in there who have spoken on behalf of me and whatnot. But the last sort of conversation that was had about me was, look, we want to give the young guys a shot. Go do what you got to do.
Okay.
So me going and doing what I got to do is I'm still putting myself in the question there.
Yes.
Again, I'm not it's a very slim chance that'll happen. Maybe the other guys step up and dominate. I just want to show that, look, I'm putting myself in that question anyway. And if I'm doing well enough, I am, or maybe I'll flop, and for who knows, we'll see.
If you have a grinder this year, Crusaders win another championship again, especially after Friday night and how good they looked. There's no reason why you can't get picked.
And I'm a big believer, and I think the game, especially in Australia, has gone away from rewarding the incumbents. I felt like my last sort of 5 years there was so much chop and change that you could never really build a combination. So I really like what Joe's done in terms of, let's stick with one team, show faith in them, and okay, for someone else to get their spot, they have to have maybe 4 or 5 poor games. The only guy has to be stepping up big time. But I mean, a full season of Super Rugby, that's got to throw some doubt in there as well if you're doing that well.
Do you analyse what the coach might want from you? Do you think maybe James O'Connor 5 years ago or 10 years ago is not maybe the player that he wants? I've got to play like this, or I've got to be sharp on certain skills.
I know
that Joe wants.
I know where I went wrong last time was in the gold jersey, but it was, again, I didn't know how to play the game till I was 30. So I only really learned how to play 10 when I came back to Australia. And even then I was still raw. I came back as a 12 to play 12, and then was not thrown into 10, but sort of moved into 10 because we had a young guy that they wanted they pretty much just Brad put me there to sort of steer the ship. And then that's when I started understanding the game. But even me 3 years ago, I did not have the knowledge I have now of how to run a game and how to do it better. So yeah, I made many errors, and I played a game which didn't suit me as well. If I had more of a voice and I had more knowledge, then I wouldn't have run the game that way. I pretty much didn't even, last time I played, I couldn't even put my imprint on the game because a lot of it was just missing me, where all I was going to be a 10 sitting in the pocket. And that's not the way I play. I need to get my hands on the ball and create, and then get the ball to our best players. But I've learned that in the last couple of years. So that's why if my body is fast enough to do what my mind wants to do, then let's see what can happen.
Maybe this is a little bit selfish, but Will Jordan is one of my big watching this kid, like sweet little short board to him. But what's he like on the field? He doesn't come across as a huge talker, but he just happens to. He was even picking and going there. He was trying to do the Seven Reese. What was he thinking? Like, get out! But is he as freakish as what he looks?
Yeah, he's got a very calm demeanor, but he's an intelligent guy. Like he's very analytical with the way he sees the game. Like even some of the moves he comes up with and little shapes off other shapes is pretty cool. There's one coming this week, so it's all on him. This one, if it works, he's a genius. Genius there, but it doesn't. He won't be getting another. Nah, very calm demeanor, but as well, like he's very headstrong as well. Like, there's one we've been joking about it at training. I set up a plane and swung back to jump in the pivot roll. Normally he'd move out. I was like, move, bro. And he's like, fuck you, move. I was like, oh, sweet. We ran a nice little ball. We ended up storing in the corner. So I was like, yeah, sweet. Like, that's what I mean. Like, not like a lot of the other teams I've sort of been in lately, and while I've been playing 10, sort of I've been just the main sort of shot caller in terms of like the direction, then creating most of the stuff. Whereas on the weekend, like I'm sort of getting out of the way a lot of the time because they've already got great combinations like between like him and Havili and Severis, and like that's just to mention like one or two names. So it is interesting for me, like where I'll naturally come to see something and he's already there, or someone's already in that spot and seen that space. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
How are you finding Taha Kamara this year?
Oh man, he's handy. Hey, I rate Taha. He's yeah, look, I would say, like I said it before and after, man, like he's one of the most naturally sort of gifted players I've played with. Like great foot speed, ballsy, good, like great pass, good kick. He's powerful. He's in the fight.
This is perfect segue, and I know we've got a storyline here, but we've got obviously this situation in the game now with the hybrid players, which you've experienced, and you've equally said that you came back as a 12. And you had to learn your way into playing 10. Now, what people perceive out there is these guys can just slot in there and they can play that with no problem, you know. So at the moment, we've got this situation in New Zealand, because you've been 15 and 10 with this Havili, Bowden Barrett scenario, where are they a 10, are they 15? They both started at fullback at the weekend, and they both played 10 last year for the All Black.
You mean D-Mac?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so
I think to manage it, like, those guys, both Bowden and D-Mac, have played 10, so they understand 10, so they can play 15 as a support role, but you can't do the other way. You can't go from 15 to 10. I am a big, like, again, my sort of career went, I played, 10 and 12 and 15 and wing, and then sort of moved around a bit. It helped me a lot in the long run because now I know exactly what my outside backs need, and also I can tell them when, like, I know you're not working hard enough, like, I need you to fucking get here on this play or whatnot. But if you stick at one position, like you can master the subtleties of it so much better. And that's what I've taken me a longer time, is to master all, like really understand the balance of flow and what lineouts to play off and when to put the ball in front of the forwards. How long is too many phases in your C zone before, you're erring on a turnover, then they kick a corner like the Brumbies and just go to their bloody maul.
With Swali, he
can't play 10, mate. You could step up at first receiver and carry, but going.
When he's come over from Lee, they throw him into his first test against England, kills it. Because it's more of a defensive position, right? Like that 13 is your guy that pretty much owns that, where I think is the edge. One of the edges. Yeah. You've got two edges.
It's the hardest place to defend,
easily, right? Like, and we've seen some great players like Matty Burke go from 15 to 13 and absolutely kill it because of his defensive style. Do you think his learning of the game And to get that continual confidence, I mean, he was sharp anyway on the weekend. I thought his first Super Rugby game at 15, amazing. But do you think that's detrimental to the Wallabies, him not playing 13?
It's all I would say is 15 is one of the hardest positions to master, especially with the backfield. 15, like in terms of okay, I'm talking about test footy now as well. Like, so 15 is so crucial in terms of it's such a game of territory and possession. So it's like if a 10, like one of those Northern Hemisphere 10s finds any bit of backfield space, you're going to put the ball there, pressure your line out, squeeze, 3 points. So that's sort of the difference. Super Rugby, you can throw the ball around a little bit more. There's a little bit, teams don't kick as much or they don't find as much backfield space. They want to err on, the passing game a little bit more. As you saw on the weekend, what was it? Nearly 80% of the penalties were blown against the defensive teams, against the defensive team. So you want to have the ball in Super Rugby, whereas Test footy, I think it's been sort of proven the last 8 years or so, last 2 World Cups, the team without the ball, whoever kicks the most sort of usually wins. So I think, again, going further on that, I would stick with him in sort of one position, but hey, I'm not making those calls there. He could, he could easily play 15. He could easily play 13 or wing. He's got the skill to play either of those positions, but, a Lions series, you're playing the best Northern Hemisphere teams that you're going to be playing an elite team. One little poor error, one mistake can cost you the game. As I know, I played in the series and we lost. That first game we lost, we should have won.
Yeah.
Marshy, you've got strong opinions on the hybrid player, don't you?
I do.
I know you want to talk about it.
Feed me. Listen.
Nah, because you see, basically, James has reinforced how I feel about it. Like, I just feel that what we are doing now is not educating players how to play that position specifically well enough, because they're continually getting shifted around, and I just feel that there is a real niche to being able to play a jersey really, really well at international level.
Yeah.
The speed, the amount of time you've got to make a decision is so cut down that you can't find yourself in different areas or places of the field and make them unless you're routine there. And combos are a big part of the game. Like you've talked about it, like knowing and trusting the person inside out you. Some of the best teams in the world have achieved incredible success, and even most recently, you could name their starting 15.
Yeah.
They don't mess around with it. They basically put the players out there, and unless there's an injury or poor form, that selection is consistent. We are not in New Zealand at the moment, because we are continually moving. We're changing our back three in particular and our 10s, and they're the game drivers, man. They're the ones that get your pattern going. Like you can't coach that type of experience, and I can hear you chatting in the ref's mic the way you were driving that last particularly 5-6 minutes. That's invaluable. That's actually still helping the team. Look at South Africa at the moment, mate. They bring 300 freaking caps off the bench.
Yeah.
But they are all coming on for players that are regular jersey holders.
Yeah.
They're not hybrid players.
But I think you can have the hybrid player on the bench to have a couple positions. Yes. Again, there definitely is a skill to coming on and closing out a game. Like that's something that I was terrible at when I first sat on the bench, as a sort of a 10, 12, 15, because all I wanted to do when I got on the bench was, make an impact. But I'm like, sometimes at 10, depending on the situation, you got to close the game out. You got to be selfless and actually just move the ball. You're not going to look like a star at all. You got to do what's right for the team. Other times you have to learn how to speed her up, where to speed her up. So it's definitely a skill coming off the bench nowadays. But I agree with you a little bit in terms of Super Rugby. Sometimes getting the best players on the field, but when it comes to Test Rugby, you got to have. So yeah, it's like what do you put first?
Yeah.
What about the talent you've seen over here, like just the Crusaders? Because again, another, oh my God, that Carter from the Chiefs, first debut, Preston debut, scores a hat trick. Because I know with Australia, right, and over the 11, 12 years, I saw players come through. There's like a Mac Giddo, you knew, you went, oh shit, this kid can play. But it seems as though their production line is just ridiculous. Do you see all this?
Yeah, well, I've seen even, I guess so, when I first came through, a lot of it was academy guys, and All Blacks aren't there. New Zealand sort of A or whatever let's call that.
Yeah, New Zealand A.
None of them were there either, so it was pretty much training with the academy and just the other Crusaders guys. And some of those 17, 18, 19-year-old boys that we were working with, I thought they were full squad members. with their skill level. And I didn't realize they're 18, 19 years old. But one thing I would say as well, like one of the differences, they just play so at the line. So like they love to put their skills under pressure all the time. Like half the time at training, I'm saying, take a step, relax, we got to move the ball. But like, so everyone wants to show their feet. Everyone wants to get over through the line. Everyone's got good hands. So yeah, there definitely is a production line. Don't know where they come from. Yes.
Do you think with the Lions this year has added a big edge to the Aussie teams? They all started off with a win over the weekend. Hell of a start.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we know like you can feel it. Like you can feel what's coming. Obviously the Lions, World Cup, like that building. But again, I think just in the back of our minds, as much as people probably hate that I said, I think we needed to have less teams. Like I've played for the Rebels and blessed them. Like one of the franchises it was just unlucky that it was them who had to go. But for us to actually mix it and do well, we needed to have less teams to bolster our squads. And I think that's what you've seen right now is
great
because you bolster with 1-2 players can change the whole energy of a team. You're adding 5 players to each of the squads who are like higher level quality players. We're bringing on a bench that's, some have played Wallabies. We're bringing on guys who can finish the game, who are top level players, and it just sort of breeds that belief. So now, every game sort of you're going into it with just a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder.
Lads, tell me about, speak to me like I'm an idiot. I am an idiot, but speak to me like I'm an idiot with the new rules and how they're affecting the game, because I'm watching this game and thinking the product across the board with all the games was so much better. It seemed faster. It seemed like there was a lot more ball in play. What are the changes that have been made and how's that affected the end product?
It was up by 3 minutes on last year. So average ball in play is 37, I think it is. Last year it was around that sort of 34.5 minute mark. So,
and what I loved about Nick Berry, I think he was one of the only ones on the weekend out of all the games. When the halfback was out, he was like, play on.
you can't put a fake a player going down because the referee's just going to say, I don't care. We don't need him. Play on. Secondly, you can't milk a scrum anymore.
Yeah.
Because you'll get free kicked or a line out.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, if you think that you are with 3-4 minutes to go able to wind the clock down, and twice it happened at the weekend, you can't.
You can't, yeah.
And at your peril, you go slightly defensive because you don't want to give penalties away. Like 25 phases later, the opposition is scoring a try to snatch the game in the 80th minute. It happened twice at the weekend. So this is ball and play. This is speeding the game up.
Creating fatigue.
And as the team that's ahead, you now can't milk the clock for 5 or 6 minutes. It's impossible
Can you remember the last time in round 1 where there wasn't like you were watching the game? Because normally it's just drop on sides, like that, particularly with 3 more minutes.
Well, you think you're tired when you're doing 25 phases worth of carrying. Well, as a defender, you're twice as tired. And again, we're going to see spectacular moments like, you're basically picking on a tired defender, because you just can't hang on for that many phases. And it's great for the game because it's rewarding positivity.
Yeah, 100%.
You're not being negative. You're working hard. You're trying to win the game in the 80th minute. You've got to go 25 phases to do it. But the adverse effect of that is someone who's having to pick themselves up 2 or 3 times.
I always found defending long phases was easier than attacking long phases because you're obviously having to hit 2 or 3 rucks in a row or you're running the ball and then you're getting back up and getting around the corner. And that was one of the things I thought was a huge improvement for Australian teams this weekend was the ability to exhaust it. Mate, I've been saying this all year, like last year. Get around the fucking corner. Stop stopping at that 15. Get around that and exhaust it, mate. To me, that's just lazy. Like not using the full width.
Yeah, if you play between the 15s, the D doesn't have to move. I think a lot of shapes are, like with the modern day shapes are, you don't want your bigger boys in the 15s, but that's when the back should step up and take it to an edge. And if we're not getting there, they should be swinging and getting to that far side. But that's where you do get stuck. If you're not coming into those 15s, these, like you said, they go back 2 steps, come forward. But if we're getting in behind the gain line, hitting seams, you have an overfold 5-10 meters, then it is better to have the ball.
How was it? Sorry, Andy, but because I'm really fascinated by this. How was it? Because I remember because we always go back to a story about myself, James. You'll figure that out real quick. And regale the great moments of the past.
You got to reflect on what you know.
You do, eh?
Yeah,
You do.
you got to.
Take us down memory lane.
I remember the first time I went into I was playing for the Ospreys, a Welsh changing room for the Ospreys, playing against the English for the first time. So I'd played, but basically in the Celtic League, so played against the Irish and that sort of carry on. And then I think we played a Scottish team. We might have played Glasgow or whatever. But then we played Leicester, I think it was. It might have even been Sarries. And fuck me, mate. There was a complete change. There was history there that I wasn't aware of. And they were literally like, these English bloody. And I was like, and the props, we had the hair bears at the time. Oh, mate. And there was just this different level of, I guess, it's not, it is, mate. How was it for you? Because you probably, being an Australian, you're used to preparing in a changing room, to play a New Zealand side. Now all of a sudden you're a New Zealand side playing against the Hurricanes, and the Crusaders are going, righto, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to get it this week as well against the Chiefs. And I can tell you now, there's some deep history there that's been created in the last decade that was never there. How was it for you to, be in that changing shed and not be putting on an Australian Super Rugby jersey?
Well, it definitely did feel different. Obviously, preparing with an Aussie team, like you just don't know the Kiwi guys as intimately. So our Crusaders crew know every one of those Hurricanes players, like I know with the Aussie players. So we know how to get under their skin, what to target, where he carries. Like obviously, you do your review and you know this guy's a right footer. He likes to carry with his right hand. He's got a left foot stab. You pick apart each player and what their lines are, but these guys knew like the psychology of these players and how to get under their skin, and I thought that was pretty cool.
This is huge. This is huge this weekend. This Friday, kicking off the round. D-Mac, he'll be running in at 10.
Well, you saw that second half. The team sort of, the way they play in their shape, I think the team clicks. Like, he's world class. Like, what he can do with the ball in hand, even without the ball. Like, he's a great player. So, we're all excited. Like, we know, obviously, it was a big game on the weekend, but next week, as you know, Super Rugby, it's so quick. There's no time to reflect. Almost, you do your review, but that's 20 minutes. I do it the night of the game. I'm reviewing, already moving on to preview. We've already done 2 days worth. We trained yesterday on Sunday.
With D-Mac, just before you were talking about all the Kiwi boys knowing all the psychologies, how to get under people's skin, I don't expect you to divulge what it may be, but yes or no, is there a strategy to get under D-Mac's skin?
Every team who plays the Chiefs is going to target. Like, you always target a 10 or a key player or a 15 or like but 100% you'll be, again, it's not like you're with him, it won't be so much psychological. It'll just be, how do you stop him from getting into the game? Or how do you stop his main support carry so he feels alone? Like, how that would probably be the psychological part of it. Again, I'm not going to divulge how we're going to do it, but that's
such a good word. Like, for people out there listening, how do you make them feel alone?
Yeah.
Like, when
what
you feel
happens when you're
alone and you're, exactly, and you're like, where's my teammates?
Yeah.
Why is no one helping me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very clever, because all of a sudden the field becomes real narrow, not so big. Can't see it as well, because all of a sudden you do feel quite lonely.
It is actually easier to especially to set physicality in defense and with attack. Always. Give them the ball, you'll whack them, because you're doing 2-on-1 tackles. So like, I understand that almost in the first couple rounds. Normally I would be like, let's kick them the ball a little bit more, play a bit more territory, let them overplay, and we'll beat them up that way, then open it up. But all of the games on the weekend seem to be, I know, I'm like, which is, because I do sort of see the first couple rounds a little bit that way. It's like less is more. You don't want to get turned over around the halfway, and then they just keep pinning corners, and our forwards are like defending mauls. But it was interesting on the weekend, because it was, again, I think because of the way the game was reffed.
They were massively positive though with the Hurricanes.
There's also the Highlanders Blues. So the Blues looking to bounce back.
Yeah, the Blues are pretty much off the back of our chat. They're facing what successful teams face, which is they've got a target on their back. So they've obviously found out that the Chiefs very quickly wanted to put the record straight after what happened to them in the final. And it took a bit to break them down. But they are now very much what the team everybody's chasing. So, being the carryover champions, that's a responsibility that you have, which is every team wants to knock you over to benchmark themselves. Okay, this is a benchmark team last year. Righto, how good are we this year? Well, here comes the Blues. Let's find out real quick. So the Highlanders, mate, to be honest, I get what you're saying about the Waratahs, but man, when I look at that, they when they wanted to and step it up, like the Highlanders, their shape is good. They've got some fight. Like Tava Norway playing 12, he's going to attract defenders regardless, and they got a real weapon there because they can truck him up, and he's going to bring 2-3 defenders with him, or they can decoy him.
You could tell the imprint of Jamie Joseph, right? Like tough, like physical, no name, but they got no names in their side. Absolutely none. And by rights on paper, if you put sides up against them with paper, you're thinking 30-40.
But they, mate, they're going to have creativity. But they've got Tony Brown and Corey Brown, the brothers, and Tony's only there for a month, I think. And then you got the hardness of Jamie Joseph there. First thing I said was when I looked at their squad, and I agree with you, it's not nowhere near the calibre of most of the other super sides here in New Zealand. But he'll just have them basically chewing nails, smacking breakdowns, being tough, uncompromising set piece. If they're running at us, I want you to fucking knock that bloke over and make him feel like he's been hurt by a Highlander shirt. That type of mentality. And then you're going to have this Tony Brown, Corey Brown type creativity on attack where they're going to go, right, well, we've got some weapons, the likes of Tava Norway. Like if I was Vern Cotter, it'd be probably like the worst game I'd want to go to be honest.
I want to finish off the show with a new segment. It is our first episode, so I'm throwing it on you. Sorry, guys, I haven't let you in on this yet. It's called Tunnel Vision, and all it is for our guest to give us as much as they can a vision of their favourite tunnel that they've walked out of.
Oh, wait, you don't want me to say what it is first, or which stadium?
Oh, yeah, tell us where it is.
Oh, just in Joburg. Love it. At the Lions Stadium there. What's it called?
Ellis
Park. It's just, unreal. Just all the South African stadiums, even the one in Durban with the sharks all over the wall at Shark Park there. But, it's just red walls everywhere. You're upstairs. You come walking down these old school stairs, and there's just so many people, like cameramen and stuff around. But it's almost like they let half the supporters in, like to just the outskirts of where the tunnel starts. And then it's probably a good 35 meter tunnel starts wide and then just narrows right up onto the field. And it's like that old school stand where you can almost hear the vibrations through. So it starts, you walk, it's like a long walk from the top of your sheds. You're walking, say 30 meters before you get to the first steps, and you can sort of hear the stadium the energy coming through. Feels like there's going to be a hole put through the roof, but you're walking down the stairs and, you can hear the metal boots clicking on that old school ground as well. It's like cement instead of the polished floors that we have nowadays. And then, by the time you narrow into that, tight space, you're standing there next to the Safa boys, and normally I'm up there. But awesome feeling. Then you come out onto that field, and obviously the history there and everything. And incredible.
That's why you play the game, for a tunnel like that, eh? It's like, you're in a hostile environment.
Yeah.
And it's just that feel that this is it's game on here.
Is it a bit overwhelming, or does it G you
Well,
up? Can you remember the first time?
To put it into context for people, you can't run out there either. Like it's so steep. And it is like that old school sort of concrete thing. You'd slip up. You'd slip for sure. You'd blow it. So you have to walk.
Yeah.
Methodically.
So you can hear the
clink,
old school
clink.
clink.
Yeah.
So it's like it brings you in close, it brings you in tight with the boys and whatnot. But it's just like it is an airy feeling, but at the same time, it's like you either meet it or you don't. Like there's been moments where, like in other games, not gonna lie, there's been games where I haven't met the energy. Like I've succumbed to not fear or pressure, but I've left the game being like I wasn't in that. I didn't die wondering, didn't take shots. I probably sat back a little bit. I was a bit too timid and I missed it. Whereas there's other games, from that first moment, it's like, give me the ball, I'm in this. Let me run straight at their back row. Or let me get into this game early. And you can feel, I can feel that by the time I walk onto that field. When you run out, you come out onto the field then, and the crowd's up and roaring. And
Are you talking about big moments and walking out at Ellis Park? Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You kicked that goal, didn't you?
Yeah.
So that was my first ever commentary. I just retired in 2010. I was playing at Sarries. It was 2010, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah. And I retired, and Grant Fox was the lead commentator for Sky. I was some rookie, and he was either sick or away, and he couldn't do it. So that was the only test match I called in probably 2 years, but they sent me over to do that Hong Kong test where the All Blacks played the Wallabies in Hong Kong, which was rare on the way through to end of year tour. And so my first commentary I ever did, we fucking lost for a start off.
Oh, was that when poor old Stephen Donald?
Stephen Donald didn't have the greatest of games, but you guys scored in the corner.
Yeah. I scored that one in the corner too.
Yeah, you did too. But you had to kick the goal to win the test. How was that? You talk about big moments and method, because
I didn't even realize I was kicking until I was walking back, and then I was like, oh, geez, I am kicking here. Gets us off the field.
yeah.
So it was sort of like,
And it was literally right on the touchline,
yeah,
wasn't
which
it?
is sort of like, it's actually, you want the one on the sideline. It's like, you miss it. We kicked the one that,
Oh, it was a tough kick anyway.
it's such a glory kick. Like, again, I would have preferred it on the left side of the field. But I don't remember feeling any pressure in that moment, because it was just, we'd come back and scored in the corner. And then by the time I realized I was kicking and we needed the kick to win, I already had the ball on the tee. So I was just like,
Oh, well.
it
How
was
old
my
would you
first
be-
game kicking for the Wallabies.
Yeah, how
too.
old would you have been then? 21?
20.
Yeah,
20.
20. And here he is kicking.
I've seen the kick. It's not it comes nice off the foot, but it's not nice. The technique is terrible, but it looks good. It went through the middle too.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
winning kick.
I think
the
I was
winning
already
kick.
looking at the post before I'd kicked it to see if I got it.
yeah.
Big
So it was to
faux
beat
pas,
the
that
All
one.
Blacks, obviously Australia, and that's been pretty rare, but it wasn't to win the Bledisloe, so we won't have to give them too much bloody to crow about,
Well, it's great to have you on board. Yeah, mate. Awesome. It's great to have you on board as well, back here, man. Great to be back. Great to see you again, Marshy.
Thanks, it's a pleasure to be here, trying to keep up with these two.
And thank you very much for joining us again. We'll be back again next week.